Swords. Fierce, powerful, mysterious. The sacred object once united entire civilizations, saving the lives of millions. The weapon itself had a soul and was revered by all Chinese.
The reason I like the Chinese sword so much is because the Chinese sword has 1,500 years of history.
People bowed to the sword in awe of its enchanting power. Hundreds of years later, respect for the sword faded, lost status as a key image of Chinese culture.
In sword, the movements have to be graceful but still powerful. They have to be fast.
But there is one man who has dedicated his life to restoring the respect for this object. He is digging through history, unearthing ancient secrets to try to bring new life to the art of Chinese swords. Yangjiang's local economy depends on the mass production of knives, but off in the suburb there is a soft-spoken artist who uses steel as his medium.
Welcome to Rediscovering China. I'm in Yangjiang, Guangdong, the knife and sword making capital of China. Respect is a principle greatly emphasized in Chinese culture. In ancient times, to be called a gentleman or a junzi was the highest form of respect you could be honored. They would carry swords as an indication of their respected status in society. Now, today people aren't walking around carrying swords, so sword making has become sort of a lost art. My name is Aurora, and today we'll discover how the art of Chinese sword making is being revived. I think I found a store where they sell swords. Hi.
Hello.
Do you know anything about swords?
Yes, I do.
Cool. Could you tell me the difference between what's over here?
Yes, these swords here are traditional Chinese swords. And these swords over here are medieval swords or European swords. And this sword here is a fantasy sword. The reason I like the Chinese sword so much is because the Chinese sword has 1,500 years of history, and the quality and workmanship is excellent. Not only that, but there's literally hundreds of hours of work done in one of these swords. These swords can cost quite a bit of money. Do you see the detail in it?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey!
How are you?
I'm fine. Are you lost?
Yeah, kind of. I'm looking for this place. I'm looking for a guy who makes good swords. Do you know of anybody?
I know one master maker.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he around here?
It's real close.
Wow. Seems we've arrived at the swordsmaker's workshop. Let's take a look. Hello? Hello? That's funny. Doesn't seem like anyone's right here, so let's take a look inside. Come with me.
Here we find ourselves in a sword-making workshop. Among the hot brick furnaces and heaps of black coal, I found our master, Mr. Zhuben. He is one of the only persons alive today who understands the mysterious techniques of making ancient Chinese swords.
I'm ready to fight. Actually, no, we're ready to test the sword. When holding the sword, you have to make sure to hold it with two hands. When presenting it, to make sure you show respect to the sword and to the maker. 朱本老师，能不能跟我们演示一下？
好的。
谢谢。
中国的剑是由高碳钢折叠锻打而成的，所以它会减震。那我们现在可以看到，
哦，
它只有渐渐动，
对
但是我们这里不震动的。那有关它的锋利度，我可以展示给你看。
行，谢谢。Wow. As you can see here, it's made a clean-cut slice right through the bamboo mat. This is no toy. 朱文老师，能不能跟我们说一下，为什么用这种材料呢？
因为我们这个剑削过这个草席的阻力，就像人体的肌肉结构一样的削人体肌肉结构一样的阻力，所以我们用草席来代替。
Wow. So this is to imitate the human muscle. Now we know the real purpose of a sword. In the past, the sword united entire nations, hurt and saved lives, and thus became a sacred object. Mr. Zhu Ben has dedicated his life to studying the Chinese sword, to restore the respect that has since been lost for this art.
实际中国兵器当中，那么剑是一个独特的、一个被人十分崇尚的这样一个兵器，把它称为是古之圣器。那么这样形容它，认为它是那个短兵之主，那么百兵之君。剑在长期的历史演进过程当中，那么它可能是一个，它是一个文化现象，是一个多元的。我们如果把从剑术这个层面，可能它是一种积极活动。那么可能有很多文人也佩爱剑，也喜欢剑，甚至帝王都喜欢剑。
The sword-making process starts out with powdered steel. The steel is naturally soft and sandy and was collected from riverbeds across China. The steel is then put into a kiln, heated with charcoal. To heat the steel evenly, the sword master will hand-select specific sizes of coal to put into the kiln. Wow, this is really heavy. We're putting this as an extension on the oven to make a bigger fire. What's the next step? Add charcoal. Can I try?
Try.
Then we wait and wait. After 8 hours of heating the steel, it is ready to come out of the kiln. The master pokes a hole into the clay seal, and the steel comes pouring out like red-hot lava. After a few minutes, the lava begins to harden. Using tongs, the ingot of raw steel is placed into a tub of water to quicken the cooling process.
The difference between the European, the Chinese, and the Japanese swords are these. The European swords had a medieval look, and they were very heavy, and they really were hard on the wrist. And the Chinese swords were straight, lighter weight, very strong, and had more of a hacking action. Whereas the Japanese swords are very similar to the Chinese swords, except the blade was curved. And this gave a slicing or a shearing action when the blade was swung.
西方的击剑，它反映了个骑士阶层，它是讲等级的。我们过去讲，我们是汉代的佩剑，上到这个王公大臣，下到我们庶民百姓是都可以佩剑的。那么这可能是它不一样的，是吧？那么西方的击剑拿剑做一种决斗，反映一个那种自我的人格，那种体现自我的价值。那么明显具有西方的那种对人的，或者西方本身他自己那种文化的价值观念在里面，是吧？那么日本的武技在两两相搏的过程当中，那么更注重对对方技术的尊重。那么中国的剑术，那么不但要尊重对方的剑技，而且还要尊重对方的人格。而且这些个往往体现那些个剑艺高的人， 建议高的人，社会就伴随着对他道德人格层面的一个高的要求。所以说，我们经常能看到我们的一些文学作品当中，或者是武侠小说当中，那么一些个剑侠，那么他在遇到一些个问题，是吧？那么在实施武力来遏制一些个社会的这个情况的时候，对待歹人的时候，并不是说一剑把他致死，而是指向他。
At the start of each day, before firing up the furnaces, Swordmaster Zhuben burns incense to pay his respects to the Taoist god of fire. After all, it is a good fire that creates a good sword. He believes that putting one's heart and spirituality into one's work will lead to indelibly good results.
All right, so we started off with this big black chunk here, and after putting it through the air hammer and forging process, we've come out with this. 可以给我们讲一下这个吗？
这个是打刀最好的原来材料，它上面呈现的是银白色，那表示它含碳量是差不多在1.2至1.6之间。
Oh. So as he was saying, basically, as you can see, it has a silvery white shine to it, meaning it's going to come out to be a very good sword.
The key to producing quality steel lies in its atomic structure. In the kiln, Zhuben added charcoal. At high temperatures, the carbon present in charcoal binds together with the iron, creating an especially strong composite. The resulting effect, a silvery white luster.
这种传统的工艺是中国老祖宗的智慧结晶。那么它跟现在的科技，有一个很大的差别，就是说，现在的科技没有办法做出古代的那种，打剑所出来的特性。那比如说，它的硬度跟这个韧度没有办法同时提到最高的平衡点。那么以古代的这种打法的话，它又有办法把它提升到最高的平衡点。
The block of steel heated in the kiln is then hammered into a manageable flat form. It is then cut into small pieces. They are then stacked in layers so when it heats, the result will be a stronger and multi-layered chunk of steel. To maintain even heating throughout, the stack is wrapped in paper, coated with smoked wild grasses to help insulate, and then topped off with a clay that acts as a sealant. After heating it in a coal furnace, it is taken to the forging machine, where it is pounded out. Then, to enhance the sword's atomic composition, an iron rod is added to the steel in forging.
A billet is like a bar of steel that has been hammered out into a shape, and then once it's been hammered out, it's folded and hammered more. When they start the hammering process, it's folded many times. The layers of steel can reach as high as 2 million.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but every time you fold it and then fold it again, it's exponentially increased. So it's folded about 28 times or more.
生产一把好的剑，要经过成千成百次的锻打，才能得到。为什么要锻打？要这么多次数锻打呢？就是目的有2个，第一方面呢是把剑这个材料里边的精团精粒打得非常的细小，这样呢会提高这个剑的强度、硬度和综合的机械性能。另一方面呢是剑里边的组织的均匀，避免剑产生一些其他方面的缺陷，比如说折断等等。古人并没有现代的科学仪器可以知道 达到一个什么程度是比较好的，所以他们就花不惜工本的这个成千成百次的这样的锻打。
It is then hammered into the rough shape of a sword. Chinese swords are meant to be perfectly straight, slightly tapered, and have 4 identical sides. Then, the sword is heated up in a bed of charcoal in a process called heat treatment. Then, it is plunged into a vat of cold water to aid in the cooling process. Mysteriously, it must be done after dark, as it is the only time the master can detect any imperfections. The final polishing is the determining moment for a Chinese sword, and perhaps the most mystifying process of all. Drawing upon experience and historical knowledge, the master looks for symbols in the blade to appear, such as clouds, mountains, and dragons.
In this next step, we're going to do a process called etching, in which we're going to apply this clay to the sword. According to ancient Chinese wisdom, wood, water, earth, fire, and metal are all combined to create a spirit of wholeness. According to the swordsmaker, by applying this mud to the sword, we're creating the final spirit of the sword. But it's also for aesthetic purposes, because after we put the mud on the sword, we're going to put it back through the heat, bring it out, and see what designs emerge.
A muddy clay mixture is then coated on the sword. Specific line designs are painted on with charcoal powder, a process that seems like it would be for aesthetic purposes, but is actually meant to strengthen the blade, making a sharp edge and soft inside.
What we have here is a Rockwell hardness testing kit. The Rockwell is an international standard for testing the strength and hardness of a metal. Here is a piece of a Chinese sword that we use to test the metal. As you can see, there's 2 edges, and the spine here is kind of thick in the middle. Mm-hmm. We call this through the center the spine. Okay. If I go up to the highest level, which is a 65, and I try to cut into the edge, it just glides right off. Mm. If I try to cut the spine of the sword, it does the same. Oh, yeah. It barely even touches the metal. It just slides right off. What this means is this steel is harder than 65 Rockwell.
Oh, wow.
So what does all this ancient sword stuff mean today? We go to Beijing to make a connection to the modern era. Chinese swords are beautiful and powerful, but can only come alive with a human connection. I'm here at Beijing Sports University, where swords are a daily part of these students' lives. Come on. These students are living proof that the sword is still alive today. They are martial arts performers, and whether they know it or not, they are giving a heartbeat to Chinese sword culture. They do not use real swords, nor do they say the sword is a holy object, but they are proud to be part of a tradition unique to China.
我练剑能有10年了，对剑非常有感情。练起来也很有，现在练起来也很有感觉。现在上大学了，还是选择练剑。
They are descendants of ancient Chinese sword culture, continuing a tradition, continuing history.
你可以在练剑的时候把你的动作处理得像音乐一样，这也就是说我们练剑的这些运动员们他所追求的一个理想。然后， 就像那个英雄那部电影里边，然后他说那种练剑的最高境界就跟书法一样，每个人都有一个追求的不同的东西，然后你可以通过练剑去表达你内心所要追求的这些东西。现在有越来越多的人都喜欢剑，也在练剑。就像我们学校吧，它也有很多留学生，他都和我们一起学习剑。虽然大家的生活的方式还有从小的环境都不一样，共同的语言不是很多，但是通过练剑吧，可以给大家找到一个共同的话题，然后通过这个剑，然后大家进行思想上的交流和沟通。
很多外国人对武术感兴趣，对中国的剑感兴趣，是吧？剑文化甚至剑术感兴趣。那么可能我们大家也看到，对中国的京剧、对相声，很多人在学相声啊、拜师啊，这都有。那么从这我们看到，我感觉外国人，特别是对待武术、对待剑术甚至学习，那么他可能是从一个文化的高度，那么对他产生吸引。
Some foreigners are also captivated by Chinese sword culture. While Western history had knights and fencing culture of their own, those studying Chinese swordsmanship are able to detect differences between the sword cultures of these two hemispheres. This student from France represents a globalizing world of cultural exchange between East and West.
The post office, what could it be?
I ordered a sword on internet
Okay.
and just arrived today.
Oh, great. How long have you been waiting for it?
Like 3 months maybe.
3 months, wow.
That's nice.
An exciting event for you.
Yeah.
At least the box is nice.
Wow. Look at that. It's really good.
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Wow, look at that. Are you satisfied?
I like it. Love
Yeah?
it.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Let's
you.
try it.
Wow. I
Heavy?
expected it to be much lighter, but no, it's
Yeah,
very heavy.
pretty heavy because it's a real sword.
Yeah.
It's sharp and heavy.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's not so many people who make that kind of sword.
And why did you choose this type of sword?
Because it's a real one, and it's a bit old, and I like it.
Great.
Pretty good. Okay.
All right, so let's go test it out.
Yeah. Ready?
So I understand there's a few types of wushu, and why did you decide to practice the sword wushu other than the other types?
First, because I like weapons. I like to have weapons in my hand, so I like sword. And sword particularly because in sword the movements have to be graceful but still powerful. They have to be fast, dynamic and explosive, but still really fluid. So it's a kind of qualities I like, combination of qualities I like.
Power feeling. Oh, interesting. And I mean, when you're using these swords, do you feel like it brings you closer to understanding Chinese culture at all?
Definitely, because a lot of things in Chinese culture are connected. So understanding the sword play sometimes helps me to understand more about, for example, calligraphy or writing. So definitely it helps.
Oh, that's great. The Chinese believe that history runs through cycles and not in a straight linear fashion. As we have seen, sword making peaked during its glory days, then became a lost art, and now again is being rediscovered. Even though China today is in the modern ages, snippets of its ancient spirit still shine through. I'm Aurora. Join us next time on Rediscovering China.